Hi, everybody. Paul Long. Hope you've been a really good day. Recently, I recorded a video with Craig Vile, Anthony Jones, and myself talking about lead nurturing. And this is something which I think so many agents look over. One of the things which is so important now is that any leads you are generating from social media or perhaps even data that you're sitting on is nurtured. And with the latest guests that we need, double-digit touch points before we'll reach out to a business or service. Lead nurturing and making sure that you're showing up on a regular basis is more important than ever. Enjoy this training. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll speak to you very soon.
One of the things we want to talk about today is one of the common mistake that most agents have with leaving potentially thousands of pounds on the table. And this is, we spend a lot of time marketing, generating leads, and we're always focused on the quick wins, on the getting the MAs booked in quickly from lead generation. But it's the other bit to that. Now, Valpal has been very successful. Third of the industry is using it. Some of those clients use it very well, and some clients struggle with it a little bit because they don't know how to incorporate it into their marketing. Hence, boot camps like you're running here, Paul, in order to show and help agents on how to do it. But once you've generated that lead, there is a tendency for a lot of agents to quite often it's the sales neg that will pick up the phone. Now, they're very busy people, right? We know that. So when they pick up the phone, they're looking for the yes. They're looking for that. Am I thinking about selling, or are you thinking about selling your property? Yes, I am. Great. And they're brilliant at taking that particular client to a booked in market appraisal, then hopefully into an instruction. But there is also a tendency that if they don't get a yes, that means no. And one of the things that we've learned is it isn't. It just means not today. So it's kind of, how do you then, or what do you do? What process do you have in place in order to keep contacting, keep regular contact, not being over salesy, but just keeping contact with that client and then when do you then contact them back again? So it's kind of a long-term nurture, long game, keeping in front of these clients, and then knowing at the appropriate time that the client's ready, then to re-engage because of their behavioural patterns. So, Paul, I mean, when we've initially sort of looked at this 18 months ago, it's one of the things that you came to us with a similar challenge, didn't you?
Yeah. We had a conversation, I'd say, quite a while ago now, and this is something important that everyone on the bootcamp should know with these sort of issues that we had. So we were generating the leads from Facebook and social media, but what was obvious was that we were probably dealing with and looking for those leads looking to do something straight away, and quickly realised that probably only sort of 10-15% of those people are going to be doing something straight away. The majority of them are going to be doing something later on, and we found it very difficult. This is in our family estate agency business to be able to look after those people that are looking to do something later on. So those sort of leads, they fall into a couple of categories. People that do something straight away, those sort of hot leads, which all agents like, and then we've got the two other categories, which are pretty much the medium term decision makers and the long term decision makers, and they can be weeks, if not months later, maybe years later. So really the biggest problem there was having the sort of time to look after all the leads and then knowing when to call them. And that's where when we came to you and had a chat about all this.
We're kind of saying here, based on the stats that you've just said there, you're looking at 10 to 15% of the prospects you turn into quick business, but that's 85% that are remaining, and that's what we really want to focus on here. Is that out of that 85, I'm not going to say that everyone is going to end up selling their property, because obviously they're not, but there is a lot of clients in there or potential clients in there, and it's just making sure that you have that process in place that's helping you to nurture them. Because one of the other things that is very apparent is that most offices are very busy, right? So it's not a case of an agent being lazy. It's just prioritizing time, and you just physically don't have the time to be able to nurture these clients yourself by picking the phone up and doing that. It just physically doesn't get done. And that's, because they're multitasking all the time. They've got 101 other things to do that they perceive to be more important, and possibly are, because it's the day-to-day running of the business, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think one thing, I think Anthony, actually, we were on a webinar earlier today, and one of the things that Anthony said was the example of a client that he was dealing with all these leads coming in, and Anthony, it'd be good actually if you could highlight that. I think for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So as we mentioned with the valuation tool, so this client's been live a month tomorrow with Valpal, and what they've experienced is, because they're doing the marketing, they're promoting Valpal correctly, and they've generated 210 leads in just under a month. So what they've done is ticked off the first part, gone, okay, wow, we can generate leads, it does work. But then actually what they've then faced is the next challenge, going, what do we do with all of these leads? They said their team are literally just overwhelmed with the volume of leads coming in. And so they just need something, and it's physical, or probably impossible manually, for their team to effectively keep on top of them. Because as Mark said, they're trying their best to make that initial phone call, but then after that, they don't have the time to then follow it up. But then working off the stats that we know, I mean, we normally say 4 to 6 months on average. It probably could be longer. I'm sure you'll probably both agree with me. So I mean, if looking off those figures, let's say 200 leads a month for 4 months, their team can't manually keep on top of 800 people. Yeah, and that's just one source. As you guys said, they're going to be doing so many other things, whether it's the portals, any other form of marketing that they're doing. That's just one example. It's physically impossible. And if they don't keep on top of them, they're going to miss out on so many opportunities. But more importantly, marketing spend, because they're spending money at the top to generate these leads, the business owners, etc. So for them to get the most return, they've got to have some sort of system in place to help their team with that. Because it's not their team's fault, they're busy. It's just impossible with those figures.
I think you also start falling into the danger of the negs cherry picking the leads that they actually contact as well. Because if you've got kind of that volume of leads coming in, not only do they might not phone them all regularly, but they might not phone them at all, because there's so many of them coming in. So you might just like, that one doesn't look very good, and you start cherry picking it, which is, from the business owner's perspective, you're paying to generate these leads, so you have to maximize the potential from those leads, and they're gold. It's the backbone, the spine of the business is generating leads. But then it's also being, some joined up thinking about what you're going to do once you've got those leads, and not just expect your team to be able. It's easy to just turn around and say, well, right, you're going to call them 10 times in the first 3 weeks. Right. Okay. You can make that demand upon people, but realistically, it's just not going to happen. Or it's rarely going to happen. So it's being realistic about the situation and putting something together that actually works. So this is 18 months ago, Paul, when you came to us, this is one of the things that we were sort of looking at there, and the solution we came up with talking with you and talking it through with you was what was the solution?
Yeah, and I think one of the things which just so everyone's clear is that a system is needed where you are getting in front of leads quickly, but then you've got a system that's nurturing them, and then obviously one that's telling you who to call and when to call them, or get in touch with them. So just working that in a clever and more efficient way. And that was the biggest problem. So obviously you guys have got a great product called MovePal, which does all of this. So if people are thinking, my God, how am I going to do this? There are answers there. But the key thing to take away from today is to definitely be thinking that with these online valuation leads or any social media leads, these are people that are much earlier in the journey, and there will be some quick wins, there always is, but not leaving money on the table with the leads that are doing something later on. So you are looking at text messages straight away, email nurturing, and then if you can bolt on a system that actually tells you when to call people, that is that's a huge benefit. And I think, Anthony, you see quite a big difference there when you're able to call people at the right time.
Yeah, particularly I know it's something you preach, we preach, the speed to lead. That's massive. I know that was one of the big sort of differences you saw in your sort of family business. But most importantly, it's also sort of knowing when to call someone. It's not always, as we mentioned, a lot of the leads via social media that they're dipping their toe in the water. Hence the reason for using an online valuation tool and not Googling estate agents near me and calling the best agent because he's got the most reviews, if that makes sense. So they're early in that journey. So they're not ready. But the most important thing for the agent is knowing when they are further down that line. And that could be 3 months, 6 months, a year. So that's why a solution like MovePal is just perfect, because it will take care of that nurturing for that time frame so that the agent doesn't have to, so they can focus on the people that are ready to talk to them. So in essence, doing a bit of the grunt work to save them the time. But then ultimately, as soon as that person is taking an action, so whether that's even just something simple as such as downloading an e-guide about how to make their home more valuable, if they're doing that, then it must be a good time for Mr. Agent to pick up that phone. And it's a good reason to speak to them too. So they'll get that instant notification when they do download that guide. So they then know who to call and when to call them.
Yeah, and it's it's also making it easy for the agent, right, as well. So when we was talking to not just Paul, but a number of other agents, when we was putting this into development, it was, if we're putting this together, what do you want out of it? And one of the other factors that sort of came back was ease of use and also content, because writing the content, we could give you an amazing platform, but if you've still then got to write the content, it just doesn't get done, or it rarely gets done, because again, no one's got the time to sit and put that all together. So the solution that we came out with is a flexible solution, so that if you have the wherewithal or the inclination to tweak and change or add to the journey, to put your own taste and flavor on that, you can do. But out of the box, it's ready to go for both sales and for lettings. And the other thing was with the speed, the ease of use, is to have a sort of a desktop version, so that you can just easily move people down the funnel after certain things happen. So some of that is done by automation, and some you manually push across after you've spoken to them. But also, we've talked about speed to lead. Right. So what happens in a smaller organization when you're out and you're doing a viewing, you've just done a viewing and you just sat in the car and you've got a really hot lead come in. All right. Well, if you don't look through your emails, or if you don't get back to your desktop, that lead is going colder by the second. So we also have an app, and the app pushes those notifications through. So you can be just finishing up on your viewing, get into your car, look at your phone, you see you've got a notification on MovePal, open it up, see what it is. It might be someone's just downloaded a guide, or it might be someone that's texted you and said, yeah, actually, I'm thinking of selling my property. Well, you could either phone them straight away, or you can reply via text within the app, okay? straight back to that client. So again, speed to lead is vital with this.
With that, Craig, you know, obviously you guys have got data, which I think would be great to share with people about. Yeah, what times do these also these calls tend to come in? You know, with the automation that's in your system, for example, where does it help? You know, I think a lot of these leads come in at unusual times. That's my feeling.
Yeah,
I know. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think we know it's over 50%. I think it's between, or it was when we last looked, I think it was between 50 to 60% of all Valpal leads are generated out of office. So at least you then know at that time, they're still going to be getting an instant response. Not always a text message, because they might not want to text at 11 o'clock at night, but they'll still get a personalized email straight back from your brand, and that's the benefit. It's that instant response, instant brand awareness, getting your face, your name, your brand back in front of every single consumer to just to simply try to move them along that journey and build that and start that relationship.
And as Anne was saying there, you know, we say 11 o'clock at night. Some people, depends on your area as well a little bit, that, you know, if you're in central London, then it's probably not so bad to actually have a text going out a bit later. But there's total flexibility in the platform to say, right, if the lead comes in after 11 o'clock, they don't get a text message until the following morning. Or you might want that to be until 1 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. There's total flexibility to tweak the platform to the agency's you know, branding really, and to their, you know, what's right for them in their particular demographic.
I think that's a good point about the branding. So obviously, you know, we've been using MovePal for a while, and one of the things I think with any sort of nurturing content that goes out, and the big mistake agents make is not branding it or making it very personal. And that's one of the tips that I think people should be aware of, is that, you know, with your product, everything's branded and it looks like it's come from an agent, which is fantastic. You know, that's what you need. I think people now are so aware when they see something hit their inbox, they're straight away sniffing out sort of the automated sales stuff straight away. So you've got to make it look as personal.
Really, so, you know, that's a really good point. It leads on to something else I was thinking about there, and that's the it should be mentioned that the emails within the funnel that we've written are non-salesy, okay, because that's the quickest way to get people to unsubscribe. We don't want them to unsubscribe. We want them to be in there for the long game until such time as they're ready. So the way we do that is by always adding value, right? So we're not being salesy, but we're asking the client, look, guys, if you are thinking of selling your property, you might find this guide useful. And if they click on that guide, what's that showing? That's showing propensity. And it's at that point that the agent then gets the notification. So subtext, get on the phone. It's always about telling you when you guys get on the phone. That's the you know, the golden rule behind, you know, behind this. That's what it's always about.
And where do you see most agents going wrong with following up leads? You know, what do you think? You know, their setup, or I know obviously time is an issue, but is it sometimes, have you seen better systems work with agents?
Yeah, definitely. As the time's going on with this, we're certainly seeing a preferred solution dependent on the agent, on how busy the agent is, how many branches the agent's got, etc. So lots of different things in there, but also when you have a new, and this is a challenge that every business owner will have when they're implementing a new product, regardless of how good it is, right? Is that you've then got to get buy-in from all of your team in order to use it, right? And it has to be that you have to get the buy-in from whoever's going to be using it. But you have options here. You can either, depending on your team, we'll train everybody up, right? So we're good at that. We'll train up your team, but what we can't do is we can't make them pick up the phone when a notification comes through, right? So if that's just not you know, if it's not going to happen and if they're not going to use it properly, then there's alternatives. And what we're finding with some of the, especially with some of the bigger agents, but not just bigger agents, one branch agencies are doing this as well, where they have either a hub or a single person or a couple of people that are dedicated on running and managing the MovePal, the MovePal platform. So imagine you're a 3-branch agency. You have 1 or maybe 2 people, and that's what they do. That's what they're tasked with doing. So you don't have to get the buy-in from, you know, 12, 15 different people. It's just 2 people. We train them to within an inch of their life, so we can see what they're doing within the platform. They then book in the MAs and then spread it out down down to the branches. We've also got another solution, because what we've found towards the middle of last year was that some agents either don't have the ability to be able to allocate this to a person or to a hub, or they don't have a hub situation in place. So what we've done is we've offered something called managed MovePal, which is basically where we do the calls. So we take complete ownership of everything, and we just provide the agent back with a booked-in market appraisal. Okay. Now we can talk to anyone that wants to know any more about that, and just we'll have a chat through with it rather than go into too much detail here. But it's focused on quality rather than quantity. That's the most important element of that. But it's right for some people. It's not right for everybody. It's right for some people. We would prefer if the agents were doing it themselves, and if we, because that's what the platform was built for. But for some people, it's managed MovePal is what the best solution for them.
Good option. One of the questions that I get asked a lot by agents is how many leads from social media actually turn into business, and obviously there's online valuations and there's downloads, but I think Anthony, you got some stats on this, haven't you, actually, from Valpal?
Yes, yeah. So again, we get asked that question quite a lot, and as you probably said, it's really hard to answer, isn't it? Because every single campaign, every single brand, every single area is completely different. Yeah. But what we do know is that within 12 to 18 months, 18% of all Valpal leads will sell.
Yes.
So the way we actually found that information out was using LandReg, so we could see which addresses actually did complete. But obviously, what information we don't know is, and we probably know a big percentage of those, is it might have been agent A that generated that lead, but did they then sell with agent A?
Yeah.
So that's the information we don't know. But that's the most important part, because it could have been use the online valuation tool last February and then just sort of chose an agent in December. But that doesn't always mean that they chose that agent, because if that agent hasn't done anything for 9 months, they probably don't even remember the name of the agent, unless it's a good brand in the local area. So it's just so important that they've done the hard part. They've captured their information. That's the tricky part, trying to get them to engage. It's then just that next part of keeping them in that journey and keeping your brand front of mind, so that as soon as they are ready, it's Mr. Estates that they think of.
That's a really good point, because obviously you're generating a lead, but also you're identifying a local property owner, and then they're going into your sort of your system or your CRM. But if you haven't got anything actually happening, or you're actually putting anything in front of them, they're just sitting there. Now I know that a lot of agents they do their prospecting, and they're literally just cold calling a lot of people. But the MovePal product's got a really good system, hasn't it, Craig? It's something we use, and I know other agents use. Do you want to explain that a bit more to everyone?
What? Sorry,
the actual data mining side of MovePal.
Oh, the data mining. Yeah, I mean, just to put a context around that, what we've talked about here at the moment is new leads. Obviously, the nurturing of new leads, but if you've been in business for a while, you're sat on an awful lot of leads, right? You're sat on an awful lot of data, and data is key at this moment in time, and utilizing all, what you've paid for that data. Over the years, you've paid for that data. They may have walked into your office. It might be previous campaigns that you've been running. but you own that data, and you have the legitimate interest to be able to re-engage with that prospect, as long as we're still talking about the same product, right? i.e. selling or letting their property. So within MovePal, we've also got some what we call data mining campaigns, again, all set up, all ready to go. And all we do when we get a client live, we then import all of their data. Now let's take it for an example. Let's say you've got 5,000 people in your database. Now we're not going to send 5,000 people on the journey on day one, because that's likely to be counterproductive, actually, because it'll make you very, very busy, but it'll just flood, and you will have be back to the same position again, where you've got too much to cope with. So what we'll do is we import it all, but then we drip them into the nurture. So depending on the size of the organization, but 150 to 250 per week will drip in. And then, so it might take 3-6 months in order to get through all of your data. Depends on how big your database is. But what you've then got is you've got a really good, solid strategy that you're regularly marketing to your existing database, and you're working through your existing database, and you've got new fresh meat coming into the top of the hopper if you're running Facebook ad campaigns, plus any other form of marketing that you're doing, which might be at other points of your sales funnel, right? So it's important to make sure that your sales funnel is healthy at all times. We talk about feast and famine all the time when it comes to marketing, right? And when last year everyone was massively busy, so probably didn't pay too much attention to fill in the top of the hopper with new leads. And now we're coming into March, and everyone's talking about, I need more stock. Well, what was you doing 6 months ago? Well, it's not too late, but you've always got to be thinking forward. You've always got to be thinking, what's my pipeline might be healthy today, but how do I keep it healthy over a sustained period of time? And that needs a strategy, not just not a reactive strategy, but a proactive strategy on what you're going to do with new lead generation, and what you're going to do with your marketing and nurturing of your existing database.
Yeah, I think that is something that a lot of agents will say to me when they're doing Facebook adverts is how can I see what's happening? And I know with the MovePal system, because you're identifying leads as hot, cold, or people looking to do something straight away, you can at least see your results from your social media advertising. The other interesting thing you said was about nurturing those people and having a pipeline. One of the interesting things is that nowadays people need pretty much double-digit touch points before they even reach out to a business or do work with them. But also, because you're generating these leads often from social media, they're so much earlier in the process. They're going through that research decision phase first, discovery phase, where they're seeing if a move's possible, if they can afford a property, see your online valuation tool, see how much the house is worth. And that's why perhaps so many people give up with them, because when they come to them, they say, well, we're just thinking, we're not too sure at the moment, and that's it. But there is that period where you just need to be putting those touch points in, and it is a pipeline, isn't it? It's a pipeline of leads. It's going to mature at some point.
It's one of the things we preach all the time, that is, if somebody, even if they're sitting watching Corrie Street and your ad appears in front of them, right? They're going to ignore that ad if they're flicking through Facebook, unless they have some form of intent. Right? If they have some interest, then they'll click on it, and then they'll put their property details in. But they'll only put their property details in if they have an interest or some intent. And what's more is what they will really only put their personal identifiable data, their name, email address, and telephone number in, if they have that propensity. But as you've said, it's really, and sometimes we always say as well that you would approach the lead when you pick the phone up. If you get through to the person and speak to them, you'll probably speak to them differently to how you would speak to somebody that walked through your office door, right? Because somebody that's walked through your office door, got up that morning, got dressed, came out, and they look for you, and they've walked into your branch. They know what they want.
Yeah.
Whereas you're interrupting someone's day with the ad. There's interest there, but you got to approach that lead in a much softer way with that, because if you're too salesy, too abrupt with them, they just push back, right?
Yeah.
And they'll push back. And it's okay if you kind of understand that that if they say I'm not interested, it means I'm not interested today. But sadly, there's too many people that go, well, that lead wasn't very good because they told me they weren't interested. But if you teach and train your the guys on the shop pointy end, the cold face, how to actually approach those leads, so it's a much softer approach, then you'll break down those barriers, and you'll have all you want to do at that point really is have a meaningful conversation, right? You want to have a conversation, open that conversation out and see where it goes. And it might be 3 months, might be 3 weeks, might be 3 days, who knows, until you actually having a conversation with them.
I think I heard the other day was that you use it as an opportunity to build a relationship.
Perfect.
Calls and then as I say later on, there's a good possibility, but that is often a problem. And one of the things when I work with agents is that just getting the team to understand the different type of leads, and it's not their fault, because up until the last few years, it has always been those sort of direct response leads, which come from Rightmove. I want to view a property, or I walk in the office, I want a valuation. All of a sudden, they're facing leads which are people that are early in the process, and it should be there to build that relationship. So often that just needs explaining. Maybe need a little bit of training. I think also another thing I heard was asking questions which are more along the lines of what prompted you to use the online valuation tool rather than you want a valuation.
Yeah, exactly. What prompted you? What motivated your inquiry? That kind of thing. Because that if it might be 2 weeks. If they don't really interact with you at that point, it's when they download that guide. That's the point. That's your trigger. That's the time when you pick up the phone. Hey, Paul, I see you've just downloaded the how to improve the value of your property guide. What prompted your interest? What's changed? We spoke 3 months ago. You said that you might be ready in 6 months. What's changed? What's changed in your life to make you make that inquiry? And then again, it'll open up a conversation.
Yeah, I love that.
So something you touched on, Paul, about the relationship. I think you actually said it earlier, and a few other members have said this, is where the texts and the emails are personalized, so they're coming directly from the agent or one of the team, because they're getting a series and they're going on a journey, a personalized journey from the agent. What we find is that the agents actually feel that they've already broken down that barrier.
Yeah,
and they're further down the journey without them actually having to do anything, because the consumer doesn't know that's automated. They think they've been having this great. You've sent him on this journey, this lovely conversation with you.
Yeah.
So you're actually much further down that journey when you do actually speak with them.
It's a golden opportunity that time. The time between them becoming a lead and actually using your services is a golden opportunity to pre-frame them, which means that you're building that relationship, but also you're making it that you're the perfect solution to their problem, which is the up and coming move. So you can, and the content you guys create is perfect for that. Like you said, Craig, educating people, providing tips. It's not all salesy. I've seen it. We use it. And it works really well. So when we actually, in our family business, when we actually speak to people, the conversation is so warm. It's not someone who's coming to us very cold. They feel like they know us and they've had tips from us and advice. So yeah, really, really good point on that. So just to wrapping that up, obviously, we put quite a few good tips there to everyone. I hope they can take it away. But if they don't want to go away and build something, with all the tips that you've given, of course, you guys have got MovePal, which